So how do you get into the University of Cambridge for medicine? I get asked this quite a lot, some small questions, some really detailed ones, and instead of sending you guys a massive block of text, I thought I'd highlight some points that are a little difficult to find online, and hopefully you can use this to find some better questions to ask. So there's quite a lot of elements in each application, each with their own timeline and their weighting. These are your GCSEs, your predicted A-levels, your structured questions, your Cambridge SAQ, your teacher's report, your UCAT, and your interview. On the college's side, you can imagine all these elements go into an algorithm to produce a score which can be used to compare with other candidates. Cambridge has quite a holistic application process and interviewed the majority as they really want to make sure they're making the best decision. GCSEs don't really seem to be weighted that much, but that being said, aim for as many grade 7s, 8s, and 9s as possible. Note that there's widened access schemes, so don't be worried if you get low GCSEs due to factors outside of your control. A-levels are really just a measure of competence, so make sure you score as highly as you can here. If you have the opportunity and the capacity, I would recommend you taking a 4th A-level or an EBQ. It's not really about getting more A-stars to show, but getting a broader understanding of the topics you're interested in, which you can also do through supercurriculars as well. The personal statement seems to be changing to 3 structured questions this year, but since the content is broadly the same, you should still be able to use all personal statement resources to help craft your answers. This is where you have an opportunity to let your interviewer know more about you, through your work experience, your supercurriculars, and your extracurriculars. Note that since it's difficult to compare personal statements, it's not weighted as heavily as other elements, so I wouldn't focus too much on the fine details. Make sure you know the content of your answers to your structured questions well, as some interviewers might go through it line by line. For example, if you reference the book, make sure you have some good points to say about it. The Cambridge SAQ is a great opportunity to add in any information for Cambridge to know. For example, why you're applying to one college specifically, or any information you couldn't fit into the structured questions. The teacher's reference is usually a forgotten part of the application process, as you don't actually write this. However, you could let your referee know of any information you couldn't fit into your structured questions that could be included in your reference. Again, this isn't really weighted that much, as every reference is pretty good. As you know, Cambridge has switched to using the UCAT instead of the BMAT. There's plenty of resources for this, so I don't really have much to say. Just make sure you familiarize yourself and start practicing questions at least 4 weeks before the exam. And you schedule your exam before the start of year 13 in September, as it gets a lot busier when the term starts. Medify seems to be the gold standard for the UCAT, but feel free to explore other options as well. The UCAT is a really important exam to do well in, as it's weighted quite heavily in the application process. If you're looking for a point of reference, aim to be within the first decile of the UCAT, as this usually scores maximum points for other universities, and getting higher is usually less worth it, as you're on diminishing returns. In other words, other parts of your application are more likely to be limited. Cambridge interviews around 70% of its applicants, so this part is really crucial to differentiating yourself. As the interview and the UCAT both produce quantitative scores, they're easier to compare and make a cutoff. Here, you really want to think about what the interviewer is looking for. Are they looking for someone who's really teachable for supervisions, really academically strong for tripos exams, or will make a good doctor? It's hard to say, but it's most likely an element of all of these. The questions can seem difficult, but they're really just extensions of A-level understandings. You might want to try having a go at some Olympiads and challenges to get better at coping with unfamiliar situations. For example, the Biology Olympiad, the Chemistry Olympiad, and maybe even the Chemistry Race, which St. Catherine's Colleges host. There's plenty of resources online, so I don't think you'll be running out of challenging questions. I would encourage you to try record yourself doing mock interviews and seeing where you can improve, and also try to be more enthusiastic when answering questions, as interviewers tend to select candidates who they would like to work with, though it's quite difficult to do this when being asked difficult questions under time pressure. There's a few other things that might be useful to think about. For example, each college has their own way of helping applicants apply and their own widened participation schemes through open days, summer talks, and access residentials. Note that these are usually run by students, so they're a little difficult to find online to get the specific information. For example, at Gonville and Keys, we run a summer talk lecture series, and there's also the Cambridge Widened Access to Medicine Society, which also hosts a lot of resources. If you really want to maximize your chances, you might want to take a look at the Freedom of Information Request documents provided by the university. These documents show you specific application statistics of each college, and since each college has slightly different weightings to different parts of the application, you can apply more strategically to a college you're more likely to get in. For example, this could depend whether you're a home or international student, an undergrad or postgraduate, and what admission test score you got. So those are some points that I thought were not quite emphasized online, but are still quite useful. There's quite a lot of fine details within the application process, so make sure you work with other people in your school to share any resources you might have. It takes a lot of effort to apply to Cambridge, but with some forward planning, you should have really good chances of getting in. I'll put some links to any resources I thought were useful in the description below. Thanks for watching and good luck.